أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون. كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها، لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا. آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون. كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير. وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات.
از تمام خواهرها و برادرها خواهش میکنیم تا وقتی که اطفال نازنین قرائت میکنن لطفاً خاموش باشین تا هم اینا تشویق شون و هم ثواب ببریم از قرائت قرآن شریف. I have brother Mohsen, brother Mahdi and sister Ruqiyya. Be around. Mahdi, Mohsen.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أنزلناه في ليلة القدر وما أدراك ما ليلة القدر ليلة القدر خير من 1000 شهر تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها بإذن ربهم من كل عامر سلام هي حتى مطلع الفجر صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات.
Sister Ruqayya.
The topic today is Ramadan in Quran and Hadith. Ramadan is celebrated by Muslims all over the world. According to the Islamic calendar, Ramadan is the 9th month which is considered to be holy. During the month of Ramadan, Muslims fast and refrain from eating or drinking from dawn to dusk. We eat one meal before daybreak and continue fast till sunset. We then break our fast after sunset. This ritual of fasting has great importance as it teaches us how to be patient, modest, and spiritual. The month of Ramadan is which the Quran was revealed, a guidance to humankind, and clear proofs that the guidance is distinct. Therefore, whoever of you is present in the month, he shall fast therein, and whoever is sick or upon a journey, then he shall fast like a number of other days. Allah desires ease for you. He does not desire difficulty. He desires that you should complete the number, and you should exalt the greatness of Allah having guided you, and that you may think. Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 18:5. Ramadan is also known as Rabi' al-Ghulb, meaning the month of spring hearts. Just as the earth softens in the spring to enable seeds to come to life, the human heart softens, allowing divine seeds to guidance to enter it. The Holy Prophet says, "It is the month of which invites you to be the guest of Allah and invites you to be one of those near Him." We all know we can be a good guest before starting our arrival. We all have to reply to this invitation as promptly as we can. Things you can do today is discuss with your friends during iftar instead of running around, or discuss with your parents, family, or teachers. Let us all think of 3 duties as a guest, 3 duties as a host, and think of Allah, how Allah is a different host compared to other hosts. Salawat.
Salawat.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. الله الرحمن الرحيم. وسيق الذين اتقوا ربهم إلى الجنة زمرا حتى إذا جاءوها وفتحت أبوابها وقال لهم خزنتها سلام عليكم طبتم فادخلوها خالدين. وسيق الذين اتقوا ربهم إلى الجنة زمرا حتى إذا جاءوها وفتحت أبوابها وقال لهم خزنتها سلام عليكم سلام عليكم طبتم فادخلوها خالدين وقالوا الحمد لله الذي صدقنا وعده وأورثنا الأرض نتبوأ من الجنة حيث نشاء فنعم أجر العاملين وترى الملائكة حافين من حول العرش يسبحون بحمد ربهم وقضي بينهم بالحق وترى الملائكة حافين من حول العرش يسبحون بحمد ربهم وقضي بينهم بالحق وقيل الحمد لله رب العالمين صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات.
Thank you, Brother Mustafa, Mohsen, Brother Mahdi, and Sister Ruqiyya. Please recite a loud salawat for all the kids with their wonderful Quran recitation and speech. خواهرها و برادرها وقتش است که ممبرشپ و حق العضویت قبرستان تمدید بکنین. سر از فردا هر کسی که میخواید که تمدید بکنن و یا تازه اشتراک نماین، اگرچه برادر فرهاد مسئول بودن ولی فعلا مریض هستن، انشاءالله خداوند شفا برشون، شفای عاجل نصیبشون بگردانه. اما هر کسی که میخوان تعویل کنن میشه که با ما برادر مصطفی و یا آجی عظیم به تماس شوند. Brother and sister, membership and funeral fund is due for renewal. Anyone who wants to renew or sign in for this programs, please see me, Brother Mustafa or Haji Azim Husseini. Brother Farhad Muradi is the responsible person to do this, but he is sick, and may Allah give him health and recover soon. Without further ado, please help me welcome our dear brother Dr. Shakil Virji to the member with a loud salawat.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Now you guys just did the iftar, the energy level, you had the chai. The salawat has to be a little bit louder. Let us recite another salawat. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وخاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد والصلاة والسلام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين واللعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين. أما بعد، قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتاب مبين والقرآن المجيد: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات. Our brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We ended our speech yesterday, our discussion yesterday, and we talked about how we can develop our spirituality during this month of Shahr Ramadan. We learned that shaitan is in chains, therefore the influence of shaitan is either zero or very minimal during this month. And our journey to rise ourselves and elevate ourselves and get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and build a strong connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is now without any kind of hindrance, without any kind of obstacles. And it is up to us now to take advantage of this month and really engage in this month and try and elevate ourselves, inshallah wa ta'ala. We talked about two different sets of people and their attitudes during the month of Ramadan. We said that some cannot wait till Ramadan is over because of the physical difficulties, the sleep deprivation, the hunger and the thirst that they have to go through during this month. And during the end of Ramadan, if you ask them, they will say that, oh my God, thank God Ramadan is over, in 2 days it will be Eid, and they are in a more celebratory mood because the month is over. Whereas there is another group of people, when you ask them towards the end of Shahr Ramadan, they will say, this went by too fast. I wish we had more days. I wish Ramadan was longer. And we discussed about what the differences are between these two types of people. And the basic conclusion, the basic summary of all of this is that those people who actually want this month to continue and for it to remain have actually engaged in this month and are taking the utmost pleasure from the ibadat, from the closeness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are able to achieve during this month. The opportunity, they take it and they engage it. Now, we talk about this spirituality and we ended up with talking about what are the things that we can do, some of the things that we can do to enhance this spirituality, to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So today I just want to touch upon one thing and the theme of this one thing before I go into something else, and that is this, that all of us, or maybe most of us, are waking up for suhoor during this month, which is something that we don't do during the rest of the year. We wake up half an hour, 45 minutes before Fajr to try and grab some bite, and then wait for the time of Fajr, and we recite Salatul Fajr, and then some of us go to sleep, some of us go to work, some of us go to school. But since we are awake, since we are waking up, in this month, my dear brothers and sisters, try and take advantage of reciting Salatul Shab, Salatul Tahajjud. Now, if you look at what is required in Namaz Shab, we call it, everybody calls it Namaz Shab. And you will find that there is a common theme in all the things that we do during Namaz Shab. Now, for those of you who know how to recite it, inshallah, that's good. For those of you who don't, contact me after the lecture today, inshallah, and I'll show you where to go and where to find how to recite Namaz Shab. It's 11 rakat if you do the whole thing. And it's 3 rakat if you try and do a shortcut. But there is a theme during this Namaz Shab that you and I need to focus on. There are few things that happen during Namaz Shab. One is that we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. This is one of the biggest themes during Namaz Shab. Besides asking for forgiveness during Salatul Shab, we are also in the mode of doing shukr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are thanking, we are grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're grateful for what? Grateful for everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has done. Now, before I go further, when you see a person who has achieved a high level of spirituality, one of the characteristics of these people, you will find that there is a certain nur, there is a certain light that emanates from them. You see that person has a very calm countenance about themselves. Their temper, they are very much under control, and they seem to be happy all the time. And it's, when you sit down and you talk with them and you converse with them, you actually enjoy conversing with them because everything that they say is very positive. There is no negativity in these people. Now, does that mean that those people who have elevated themselves spiritually, they don't have any problems? Don't they have any stress in life? Don't they have any anxieties in life? No. All of us have problems. All of us have things that we are stressing about. All of us have worries about things. But when a person achieves this spirituality, they handle these things differently. And these are the kinds of things that they do. They are thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already granted to them. When we consider everything in our lives, yes, sometimes we wish that things were a little bit better. And we wish that, our finances were better, for example. But then when we take these wishes and we start focusing on these wishes, we forget about taking advantage of the good that is happening now. And you don't enjoy the good that you already have, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His mercy has already given you and I. There are so many people across the world who will look at us in whatever state that we are in right now, who are wishful that I wish I was like this person. Talking about me or you or the other person, where that other person wishes that he would be in a much higher level. So rather than focusing our minds on things that we don't have, of course we have to work for these things, we also need to be appreciative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for what He has already given to us. And if things are not going to improve, we are not in a bad place. And for that, we need to have this attitude of gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you will find that in Salatul Shab, after you perform Namaz Shab, there is a hakam, or there is a ritual in which you go into sujood and you perform shukr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you don't do it because you don't just count 100 times shukr. You feel the shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is required in Namaz Shab. for forgiveness. Why are we forgiveness for what? Now, forgiveness does not necessarily mean, my dear brothers and sisters, that I have committed a big, farcic act, that I have done something horrible and now I need to, seek forgiveness for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. None of us are fallible. We're all going to slip. We're all going to make a mistake. But imagine this. When you are in college, in school, and you have just given an exam, you walk out of this exam, okay, and you're thinking about how did I answer this question, how did I answer that question, and then you come to a realization, oh my God, I picked the wrong choice in the multiple choice. I wish I had thought of this at that time. This is now, you are sort of regretting something that you could have done to achieve that perfect score during that exam. And that is where we need to bring our own life slips and mistakes, my dear brothers and sisters, so that when we slip, we just go back and say, I wish I didn't say that. I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I would not have, reacted in that sort of a sense. Always the idea of self-examination, because through this only you and I will be able to try and get to a level of perfection. Forgiveness is not about the fear of fire. Yes, we do worry about not going to Jahannam. But asking forgiveness for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also a means by which I can perfect myself. I can become an insani kamil. And the third thing, my dear brothers and sisters, this is not so much a big part of namaz al-shab, but it's a part of spirituality, is tawakkal ala Allah, is to have full and complete trust on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, we talked about it yesterday, the idea of the reason why sometimes when we are promised all of these rewards during Shahr Ramadan, we don't understand the value of this reward. Why? Because we cannot touch it, we cannot feel it. This reward is going to come at some other point in time, maybe in the hereafter. And because we are not able to sense it, we are not able to actually feel that reward, we tend to become lazy and we tend to become heedless. We don't focus on that. But that requires a tawakkul. That requires a trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That this act, what I am doing, I'm trying to do my best. And I'm leaving the rest of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is somehow going to compensate me for what it is that I am doing today. And I just have to keep on focusing, inshaAllah wa ta'ala, on doing the right thing. Now yesterday, we spoke about the story of Habil and Qabil, and we said that in those days, there was no external influence, there was no peer pressure, there was no social media. So the way Qabil reacted to Habil was not an influence, was not an external influence. It came from within himself. And when he allowed Shaitan to take the feelings that he was having, he took it to the next level by ending up killing Qabil in that regard. So we are now living in a world where the external influences are there. There's no doubt about it. All of us are influenced by that. You know, if you go around, I don't see much of that going on, but there are people who are on their cell phones right now looking at what's going on, whatever news they're watching, whatever TikTok clip they're watching. Okay, and all of these things, my dear brothers and sisters, some of it is good, but a lot of it is not. It's a distraction. It's the distraction from the real purpose of your existence. You know, we shouldn't waste time. Sometimes you need something to sort of wind down, but most of the time we need to take advantage of the free time, gain knowledge, do something productive, with that. So in this environment that we are living in, my dear brothers and sisters, it becomes even that much more important. Because we see here, we had 4 or 5 kids, they came and they recited Quran, and someone gave a speech. Okay, this is all possible. This is not the fruits of just sitting back and not doing anything. Somebody worked hard to try and teach those kids what they came up here and they performed it. We get so busy in our lives, my dear brothers and sisters, with trying to earn an income, trying to solve all of the problems that we have, that sometimes we end up neglecting our children and our families, and they end up not getting what they really need to protect their hereafter, and not only their hereafter, their adult lives. Because if we lose morality, we lose this sense of ethics in our lives, our kids are going to grow up and they will have absolutely no direction in which way they want to go. So I come back now to the sermon of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala. Again, the focus, my dear brothers and sisters, we have to take advantage of this month. And we've been told this is the freebies that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving to us during this month. Sawab is for sale. It's not even for sale, it's free. Your breathing is tasbih, your sleep is ibadat, we are told. So, not going into the whole of the sermon of Rasulullah, one of the things in this khutbah that our Holy Prophet ﷺ said, that in this month, if a person tries to improve his akhlaq, I said this yesterday, I'm repeating it again today, tries to improve his mannerisms. Akhlaq has to do with ethics and morals and mannerisms and doing the right thing, being fair to other people, being nice to other people. If the person improves his akhlaq, the reward for this is that on the day of judgment, that person will be able to cross the sirat without slipping. The sirat is a bridge, a very narrow bridge that is going to go over the hellfire, and you have to get to the other side. And those who sleep, they fall down into the fire. But for those, according to Rasulullah, during this month, if they improve their mannerisms, they will be able to cross this sirat, without falling. There's another thing Rasulullah says that if you are a master of something, if you are a master of a slave, or if you are an employer, and you are dealing with your subordinates, your employees, says if you lessen the burden of work on your employees, if you don't try and make extraordinary demands on them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment will also be lenient with you and I. Now, these things will only manifest itself on the day of judgment. It is not something that I'll see the result of tomorrow. I have to have that trust that on the day of judgment, I'm going to get all of these things. And that is why this month becomes important, my dear brothers and sisters. He further goes to say that whosoever fulfills his duty, his farz, his reward will be multiplied 70 times in this month. Then Rasulullah says that whoever severs his link with his relations, those who break their ties with their family members. This is, sila raham. We talk about it, in other lectures. But sila raham, to maintain relationship, with your relationship, if you cut this off, Allah will be severe with you on the day of judgment. So this is the month, my dear brothers and sisters, if there is an uncle or an aunt or somebody that you have not spoken to in a long while, this is the month in which to pick up the phone and call them. Ask them how they are. Try and reconnect back, with your family. Then Rasulullah says that whosoever does salawat upon me during this month, Allah will lighten his burden on the day when the good doers, the burden of the good doers is going to be lightened. So please recite a salawat. So I just took a little excerpt of this sermon of Rasulullah, and we are now moving into something else. Bear in mind that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and you should all go and read this sermon, said a lot of things. And a lot of things that he said are not something that is out of our reach. It's not something that you and I cannot do. It's very easy to do, provide that we really focus and want to exactly do it for the reasons that I've just stated. Now, Surah Baqarah. Does anybody know what that Surah Baqarah is named after? Any guess? Mahdi. A cow. Well, that's the meaning of Baqarah. But do we know which cow is being talked about in Surah Baqarah? You know, it's one of the longest surahs in the Holy Quran, and the cow is mentioned with a very, very small portion of the book, of the surah itself. It's a small portion. But go ahead. The golden calf. Okay, we're getting to it. Okay, it's a small passage in Surah Baqarah that's talking, but it is of so much importance that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala named this long surah, you know, after the cow. And here is how the story goes. This is not in the Quran, this is in the narrations. And there are different versions of it. You know, I'm picking the one that's from a writer who quotes from Biharul Anwar. And, you know, please pay attention. Salwa ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So there is a young man who was living with his father and mother during the time of Banu Israel. Way back during the time of Prophet Musa alayhi salam. This young man was a good son to his father and his son, and he was an ardent follower of Prophet Musa alayhi salam. A very close, you know, follower of Prophet Musa. On one occasion, when he was near Prophet Musa alayhi salam, he heard Prophet Musa alayhi salam reciting the durud, reciting the salawat, and extolling the Holy Prophet Imam Ali alayhi salam. This is according to Biharul Anwar. And he heard it, and he started to apply this on a daily basis for himself. Every time he had an opportunity, he used to recite salawat. I'm now going between the sermon and what the action of this young man is. So he used to recite salawat. His father had a heifer. A heifer is a baby female cow. You know, not really a baby, but not, you know, a complete adult itself. You know, he used to own that. And this cow had its skin was a golden glazy color, which was very pleasant to watch. And the father was so proud of this little heifer that he used to constantly look at it. He was getting pleasure out of it, and through that he was thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for having granted him this heifer. The heifer itself was one that he had such an attachment to it that he didn't put the heifer to any kind of work or any kind of labor in the farm. So this heifer was not used for the farming. He didn't use the heifer to go and you know, like dig the ground or water the ground or anything like that. He says, you know what, I'm going to just leave this. I enjoy watching this cow so much. You know, I'm just going to let it go. It can graze and come and go as it pleases. Now the son, he had a business. And he had a little storage room in which he used to store his merchandise. And most of the time he used to keep it under lock. And when his customers would come to him, he would open it and he would allow the people to go and watch his merchandise, look at his merchandise, and decide whether they want to buy it or not. One occasion, he had gone out of town or he was out of the house. And whenever he was out of the house, he used to leave the keys of this warehouse or of this storage with his father. And his father had the habit of napping during the day. He used to sleep during the day. And whenever he used to sleep, you know, he would lie down and he would put the keys of the store under his pillow. You know, just secured, make sure that it didn't get lost. It so happened, my dear brothers and sisters, that one day some customers came to this young man and wanted to see his merchandise. So he took him to the home where the store was, and he went to try and get the keys from his father, and he found that his father was asleep, and the key was under the pillow where his father was sleeping. We're talking about relationships. We're talking about akhlaq here. And the son said, I'm not going to disturb my father. I'm not going to wake him up, because if I try to get the keys, I'm going to disturb my father. So he told the customers that, sorry, you know, I can't show you the merchandise right now. You know, and narration said that there was going to be a really good deal, that there was going to be a good solid purchase that was going to happen. But the son was adamant. For whatever it is that you guys are going to buy, I am not going to sacrifice the sleep of my father by trying to grab the key to go and open the storage. So he refused to do that. When the father woke up and he realized that his son had let a good deal go, he said, you know what, son? This heifer that is so precious to me, this cow that is so precious to me, I'm going to give it to you as a gift. It's now, it's now completely, it is your possession. You own this cow. And the son said, okay, father, that's what you want, that's fine. So this is a story that has happened. It's not in the Quran. This is in the narrations. Now we go to the Quran and why this Surah Baqarah, was revealed, or why this particular incident was revealed. In the Banu Israel, a murder happened. Somebody was killed. And when the body was lying there, the Banu Israel started to argue with each other and trying to blame each other for who had murdered this person. So they had a prophet amongst them. They went and they talked to Prophet Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. He says, Ya Musa, O Nabiullah, we have this issue here. We have this dead body, and we don't know who has murdered. It was obviously murdered, and we have no idea who has murdered this person. And people were becoming suspicious. This is now a society that is very suspicious, and this is another thing that we need to focus on. That rather than focusing on the problem, people started to blame each other. Must have been you because you wanted this, and must have been you because you wanted this. And the society, the people in that, whoever was possibly responsible for killing this person was being blamed all over the place. And they came to Musa alayhi salam and said, no, some of them said, it wasn't us. We had nothing to do with this. Musa alayhi salam gives them a verdict. And he says to them that I want you guys to swear that you did not do it by the name of Allah, by the name of, and in Biharul Anwar it's mentioned that swear by Rasulullah that it was not you who has murdered this person. And once you have done that, the blood money that is in the compensation for the murder that had occurred, I'm now going to distribute the burden of this blood money on the entire community. So the whole community rose up. Say, Ya Musa, this is not fair. We have not done anything. And you are telling us that now, possibly, that even after we swear, we are not getting anything out of it. We're not getting nothing out of it. So Musa alayhi salam then asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help. Say, now what do we do? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to Prophet Musa alayhi salam, and he said to them that why don't you ask them to slaughter a cow? So when Musa alayhi salam came to the people and he says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that you have to slaughter a cow. Now the Banu Israel again, arguments, all the time, very skeptic about what Musa was saying to them, and skepticism about religion. So they turned to Musa and said, do you take us as fools? This is in the Quran now. What does sacrificing a cow have to do with solving a murder? Musa alayhi salam says that you have to trust me that this is an order from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you have to do this. So finally the Banu Israel said, okay, maybe that's the case. So here they could have gone and picked any cow from any farm and slaughtered it and followed the instructions that Musa alayhi salam was going to give them, but the Banu Israel decided that that's not the way they wanted to do it. What they did, they said, ask Allah what kind of cow should this be. Please just a salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. I want to continue with the story, but before I do that, I just want to reflect on something that some of us do all the time when we are faced with a fatwa or some kind of ordinance, some kind of sharia thing that comes upon us. And sometimes I find that when a scholar comes to the masjid and there is a question and answer session, the questions that people ask are, for example, Maulana, if I have to do wuzu, should I drop the water from here or should I drop the water from there? Or, when I'm doing the masa, of the head, should I do it with one finger or should I do it with 5 fingers, and so on and so forth. They ask for details in which what ends up happening is life becomes difficult for them. And here the Banu Israel were told, slaughter a cow. That's all you got to do. They said, no, Musa, tell Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, find out, I want to know. We want to know what kind of cow is it. So Musa alayhi salam says, went back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now they are making Musa alayhi salam do Safa Marwa between them and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Musa alayhi salam went to Allah and he says, this guy is saying what kind of a cow we need. So he gets a response that tell them that this cow should not be too young and should not be too old. You know, something in between. So Musa alayhi salam came and he told them they should be not too old, not too young, something in between. They still had a choice of a lot of cows that they could have picked for this slaughter. But the people said, no, Musa alayhi salam, this is not enough for us. Go and ask Allah, what color should this cow be? So Musa alayhi salam went to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again, and he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, these people are asking, what color should the cow be? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to them, that tell them that it's going to be like a yellow, a golden glaze color cow that they need to sacrifice. So they came back again. And Musa said, this should be a golden cow, a yellow color cow, and so on and so forth. Still, now the choices are beginning to go down from all cows to a certain age group, and now we are stuck in a certain color. This is what you have to do. This was still not satisfactory to the Banu Israel. They said, go ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that what should be the nature, of this cow. Musa alayhi salam went and he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he says, they're still wanting to know what is the general nature of this cow. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds to him, tell them that this cow should be one that has never dug the ground for the farmer or has never been used to water the crops. Its skin should be perfectly smooth and there should be absolutely no blemish, no dark, no kind of, any kind of defect, on the skin. So Musa alayhi salam came back and he said, this is what it is. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's what he wants. So the Banu Israel said, yeah, now we have the answer. Now where do you find this cow? They went around all over the place and they could not find this cow. In the interim, that young man that I was speaking about, he had a dream. And in this dream, he saw that he was told, and according to Biharul Anwar, he saw Rasulullah in his dream, and he was told that, listen, a delegation from the Banu Israel is going to come to you, and they will want to purchase your calf, your cow. Tell them when they come that you're not going to sell the cow until you speak to your mother, and we are going to tell your mother what answer she is supposed to give to them. So it happened exactly the same thing. The following day, the delegation from Banu Israel, they went to they went to this young man because they finally found out that the quality of the cow that they needed for this finding out, solving this murder problem belonged to this young man. So they came to him, and the young man said to him, you know what? I have to consult with my mother first before I answer this question. And he asked his mother, and his mother said to them what the price of this cow is going to be. And she said to them that it is going to be that the whole hide, the skin of this cow should be filled with gold. That is the price that we are going to give for this cow. Now the Banu Israel went back to Prophet Musa alayhi salam and said, yeah, Musa, where are we going to get this money from? We're not going to be able to solve this problem, until, we are able to come up with this amount of gold so that we can purchase this cow and sacrifice it to solve the problem that, to solve the murder issue. Musa alayhi salam said, what can I do? You guys could have solved this problem a long time ago. All Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked you guys to do was just sacrifice a cow. It is you guys that caused Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to tighten the noose until it came to this specific cow. And if you don't do it, we're not going to be able to solve the murder. So somehow, these guys, they gathered the funds and they went to this young man and said, okay, it's a deal. We'll purchase the cow from you. Now, again, going back to the sermon, look at the structure or the construction of this family. Father, mother, and son. The akhlaqiyat that we talked about. Okay, the thankfulness, the durood that was going on in this house. Okay, this is now has created a circumstance where a whole community has completely become dependent on this family to solve a murder problem. So they did. They finally came up and they took the cow and they sacrificed it. And they were instructed that when you sacrifice it, you take the tail of the cow and you go and strike the body of the dead person. That person will wake up and he will identify who the murderers were. This is all in the Quran, brothers. This is not riwayat. This is in the Quran. So the guys now, this is not in the Quran. According to the book I was reading, they went and they sacrificed the cow. They took the tail and they went and they struck the dead body. No response. So they came to Musa alayhi salam and he said, Musa, you said that we strike this body is going to stand up and it's going to start to speak. Nothing happened. Musa alayhi salam told them, did you pay them yet? He said, no, we haven't paid them. So go pay for it first. Make sure that that family received the compensation first. When he is satisfied that you have given him what they were asking, then you go and do this. And they ended up going and they struck the cow, and in fact, this dead body did stand up and identified who the murderer was. And there are riwayats about who the murderer. There was some say there was a conflict of somebody wanted to marry somebody, and there was a jealousy involved because a person who wanted to marry that person is now not able to, and he killed this person. Some say it was an inheritance issue. That's not important. The important thing is this guy stood up and he identified, the murderer. Now, having heard this story, this is the completion of the story here. On one hand, you had a community that was in chaos about the things that were happening, but there was a requirement that justice should occur, that the right murderer should be identified and the right murderer should be executed or punished or whatever it is that they did with them. On the other hand, my dear brothers and sisters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted, this is what is implied in this story, wanted to reward this young man for his devotion to his parents, for his connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through durood, through what he was learning from Musa alayhi salam, for his not wanting to disturb the sleep of his father, and he sacrificed a big deal in terms of the businesses he was going to do. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to reward him in this earth and right away. And that's how this young man was compensated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Forget about what's going to happen in the hereafter. He received his reward right now, for the rest of his life. So, brothers and sisters, if we looked at this, these were two separate incidences. They had nothing to do with each other. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like a jigsaw puzzle, made two things fit together, in which justice was also delivered and the compensation to this young man, was also delivered. There was no hope in this young man that, this heifer, this cow, is going to bring this kind of an income to me. All he was doing was the right thing. He was connected to God, and he was obedient, and he was taking care of his parents. He was respectful to his parents. He was doing the right thing. And whatever business that he was doing, he must have been obviously doing halal business. He was doing it, but he was also satisfied with whatever he already had. The fact that he lost that deal didn't faze him at all. He was not a person who was in a complaining nature. Oh my God, I missed a good deal. No, he was thankful about everything. So, in this month, my dear brothers and sisters, this is just one example that I've quoted from the Holy Quran for you. All of us, need to just start focusing on doing the right thing. Maybe we are already doing the right thing already, but let's add to it. Let's take advantage of this month of mercy, because these opportunities, we don't know whether we're going to get this again or not. There is a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad, that if a person is unable to go for Hajj and is unable to be on the plains of Arafah during the day of Arafah, because the day of Arafah, we are told, we believe that when a person exits the surrounding of Arafah, the sahan of Arafah, when the person exits for them, it's like as if he's a newborn baby. All the sins are forgiven. It says that if a person is unable to go to Arafah, the next place where they need to be is in this month of Ramadan. Because honestly, we know, you and I know, that people who were with us during last Ramadan, who are not with us this Ramadan. So there is no prediction about what's going to happen next year. Take advantage of it now. Ample of opportunities, ample of opportunities. The sunset this year is early. And even after the daylight savings, it's still going to be relatively early. The night before Fajr is going to be long. You can plan on waking up in the third of the night when you wake up for suhoor, to indulge in ibadat, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no high spiritual platform, to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the platform of the tahajjud prayers. Because in this prayer of tahajjud, you cannot show off. Who are you going to show off to? Nobody's watching. You're at home. You can come here and we can pray namaz and I can show off that I'm praying namaz. I can have some riyah in that. But tahajjud has none of that. It's you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all alone. So this is the month, my dear brothers and sisters, when we are already waking up. Take advantage and create this habit of reciting tahajjud during this month, inshallah. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the tawfiq, to grant us the tawfiq of being like that young man that we just described, in all our affairs, to try and be the best that we can be, to try and do the right thing at all times. And we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq of reciting this beautiful namaz al-shab every night during this month, and hopefully develop this habit for us to be able to do it for the rest of the year, inshallah. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa alihi at-tahirin. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.